The next way we want to look at solving quadratic equations is what's known as the quadratic formula. And that is this big long formula which says x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, this has a benefit over factoring because not all quadratics are easy to factor. It has a downside though because since it is a complicated formula, it's very easy to make mistakes. But let's go ahead and look at an example equation that we will use the quadratic formula with. And I want to use 2x squared minus 12x minus 38 equals 0. Alright, so first of all I want to identify a, b, and c. So of course a is in front of x squared, that makes it 2. b is in front of x, that makes it negative 12. The biggest place you're going to make mistakes here is with positive and negative. And c is the number all by itself, so negative 38. All I have to do is plug it into the formula and be very careful about how I do that. So the formula says x equals negative b. Well, we just said b was negative 12. And then plus or minus the square root b squared. Now be careful here. We're going to put b in parentheses. Oops. And then square it. B squared minus 4 times a in this problem was 2, and c in this problem is negative 38. Didn't make my square root long enough, but we can plug in negative 38. Okay. And then that is all over 2 times a, which again is 2, so 2 times 2 is 4. Right. So now we start to simplify, and at this point we get x equals negative 12 gives us a positive 12, plus or minus this big square root, which we will deal with in a second. But let's go ahead and do the easy part. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay. Now, I know that negative 12, the reason I put this in parentheses is because I want to square the negative also, because when I take negative 12 times negative 12, I'm going to get positive 144. Now, what I would do over here is count up the number of negatives you have. You have a minus and a negative, so that makes 2 negatives, which is going to make whatever we do over here positive. If it were an odd number of negatives, it would come out negative. But since we've got 2, we've got an even number, it comes out positive. So positive 4 times 2 times 38, which is positive 8 times 38, which is 304. Now I can go ahead and make that 12 plus or minus the square root of 448 over 4. At this point, I need to simplify this radical. And so I am going to come off to the side and take care of that first. And so 448 will factor to 4 and 1/12. which will also factor to 4 and 28, which will also factor to 4 and 7, and that gives me 2 and 2. Now, I could factor these 4s further down, but since I have a pair, I don't have to. So I get a 4 outside the square root because of this pair of 4s here. I get a 2 outside the square root because of the pair of 2s there. And I get a 7 inside the square root. And 4 times 2 is 8. So I can put 8 times the square root of 7 back up here where I had the square root of 448. And I will get then that x equals 12 plus or minus 8 times the square root of 7 over 4. And I'm almost done, but I notice that 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. And my two solutions then are 3 plus 2 square root of 7 and 3 minus 2 times the square root of 7.